I work at a lake. Body parts keep washing up on shore. By Dopabeane. I'm a county park ranger. My beat includes a big lake and an even bigger compound. I enforce rules, patrol the water, and troubleshoot electrical hookups when campers can't tell the difference between 30 and 50 amp plugs. I have to admit, the park is pretty pathetic. An uninspiring spread of dusty eucalyptus-dotted scrubland, ringed by barren hills. The only real attraction is the artificial lake. 5,000 filthy acres of swimmable, fishable, boatable water. You'll never catch me touching that water, though. One year, they drained some of it and found a layer of human shit 3 feet deep. Now, look, I used to be a cop. I've smelled dumpster corpses in the dog days of summer and hoarder houses crowded with dead animals. But the smell of that giant underwater shit caked baking in the July sun tops it all. Anyhow, ours is the only campground this side of the country with a constant active ranger presence. There's a good reason for it. It's a huge rural park. We have issues with vagrants and meth cookers. Also, anytime you pack hundreds of drunk campers in tight quarters a few yards away from water, you're going to have problems. People drown. Trailers catch fire. Idiots pilot boats when they're drunk and end up killing each other. Body parts wash up pretty regularly. Fingers, toes, the occasional limb. Legacies, I guess, of accidents and suicides. At least once a summer, some gangbanger shoots a rival gangbanger and traumatizes everyone in the park. Yet they keep coming. Every summer without fail. Now, the rules dictate that the lake stays empty from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. No swimmers, no boaters, no exceptions. So when a camper complained about a rogue midnight sailor disturbing the peace in the wee hours of July 26th, I had to take care of it. Stepping out of the air-conditioned ranger station into the hot night was a special kind of torture. Heat descended immediately, thick and suffocating as a quilt. So dense it felt hard to breathe. Moving through it was like walking through water. I could almost see it. Veils of soft red and bruised purple shimmering just past the boundary of human perception. It was a little better out on the water. Still dispiritingly hot, but thinner somehow. Breathable. I steered the patrol boat past the dock and circled the perimeter. It took a while. The lake's almost 8 square miles, and the boat's a puttering little relic of a bygone age. I shut it off periodically, listening for the telltale echo of a motor. Nothing. Just wind and the lapping of water against the boat. The lake has a few man-made islands. Nothing fancy, just mounds of dirt, covering infrastructure access points. When the perimeter proved empty, I decided to check them out. I pulled close to the biggest one and killed the engine. Here, far away from the RVs and tents and campfires, the temperature was almost bearable. I looked up impulsively. The vast array of pale stars spiraled across the velvet sky. I caught sight of the Big Dipper and smiled wistfully. What I'd give to be able to fly, to float up into the tatters of cold, wet clouds and drift under the starlight. I shook myself and scanned the island. Just rocks, litter, and dry vegetation in their unsettling shadows. I heaved a sigh and continued to search. Right around the time distance and darkness reduced the island to a dim shadow, I sighed again and shut off the boat. I looked up to the sky and frowned. The stars were different. In the early hours, stars have a high, cold look to them. But these were warm and multicolored. Yellow, gold, swampy green and dim, dour red. I'm a little fuzzy on my constellations, but I know the Big Dipper. I'd just seen it. But it was gone. In its place were flowery arrays like fireworks set off at a great height and frozen in place. A shudder crawled down my back. I spun around, dimly aware that my heart was pounding, and saw a boat. Relief and irritation shot through me. I pulled up beside it, throwing on every light I had. The harsh white illumination showed two figures sitting in a motorboat, a little boy and an old man. My stomach dropped unpleasantly. He had some kind of facial injury. One of his wide, round eyes dropped past the spot where his cheekbone should be, and his head was uneven and unpleasantly small. 4 pink scars bubbled across his face, stark and strange in the harsh light. Several black garbage bags were crumpled on the floor of the boat, atop which an open tackle box lay. Are you kidding me? You've seen the rules. Nobody on the water after 10 p.m. It's now 2 in the morning, so what do you think you're doing? Night fishing, the boy mumbled. The man stood up. I didn't know, officer. I thought I'd take him out on the water. We don't like going out in the daylight. He smiled thinly. The effect was objectively ghastly, but oddly heart-wrenching. People stare. It makes it kind of hard for me. I'd been ready to ticket them with the highest fine I could impose, but faced with the reality of it, a father and a son trying to make memories in a world that didn't even want them to exist, I couldn't do it. I understand. I do, and I'll let you off this time, but we have rules here. People are trying to sleep, alright? I'll escort you back to shore. The pair exchanged a weird glance. Then the man nodded. Okay. Thank you, officer. Thank you. He turned and lost his balance briefly. His coat fell open, revealing a familiar uniform. A gold star glimmered on his chest. A sheriff badge. I blinked and suddenly his coat was closed again, obscuring the clothing beneath. Just then the boy slipped something overboard. It hit the water with a loud plop. What was that? You need help fishing it out? The boy shook his head, white face practically glowing. No, it was just nothing. I turned my flashlight on the water and caught a glimpse of something long, ragged and pale drifting down. Blood clouded behind it like a watercolor. A human arm. My hand flew reflexively to my duty belt. Hold still, don't you goddamn move. At that moment, something huge and white erupted from the murk, slithering alongside the motorboat. An enormous ribbon of moonlight cutting through the water like a phantom. I watched, stunned, as the ribbon caught the arm and began to eat it. What is that? I barely recognized my own voice. What the hell? What are you people doing? The man licked his lips and tried to give me another smile. It defies nature as we know it. If we feed it, it stays small. If we don't feed it, it grows. He was trembling, I noticed. Trembling so hard his coat fluttered. We can't let it grow anymore. It's already pulling the other world through to ours. Like thread through a needle. When it gets enough thread, it'll start making stitches. I looked up at the sky again. Firework constellations pulsing in 1,000 colors that were too warm and far too strange. Then that long, eerie wraith whipped at my boat, hitting it with enough force to make me lose my balance. I fell against the railing as the creature surfaced. Don't look! But it was too late. I caught a glimpse of an awful face, predatory yet strangely unformed, with hollow eyes and a gaping, yawning mouth spiked with warm, pulsing lights like stars. I closed my eyes and prayed as the boat creaked and the water lapped. After a long time, the boy squeaked. It's full. We can go now. He didn't need to tell me twice. About halfway across the lake, I heard a rumble of a motor and looked back. The man, the boy, and the little motorboat were behind me. The man gave me an encouraging smile. I looked away and shuddered. Then, heart pounding so heavily I felt ill, I turned to the sky. The stars were as they should be, pale and cold, arranged in familiar constellations. There was the Big Dipper, shining down like an old friend. I breathed a sigh of relief as I approached the shore. Ever since that night, I've been telling myself that I had a nightmare, or even a hallucination. Maybe I'm ill, too old to be a ranger, too old to have any job. But something happened a few days later. Something I can't get out of my mind. Something that scares me more than I've ever been in my life. On July 28th, a little girl found a leg on the shore of my lake. No one knows where it came from. The stories are flying all around the country. It was a suicide. It must belong to a girl who's been missing for a few months. It's just related to a tragic accident. The authorities won't drain the lake to look for the rest of the body. They say it's impossible, that 5,000 acres is just too much, even to look into a potential murder. The thing is, they emptied it a while ago just to clean up some shit. They obviously can drain the lake if they want to. But maybe they know better than to try.